First, can you introduce yourself? Where are you from and what's your name?
Yeah, my name is Saifullah. My born name is Saifullah, and
Yes.
my teacher used to call me Saifi, and I belong to a village in Pakistan. So I sometimes call myself as Saifi Koistani, and I am from Pakistan. It's a country near to China, border with China, Iran, India, and Afghanistan.
Okay. Okay. To start off, for first question, okay? How has the English language evolved in your country over time?
Okay, so first, I think I should take you back to the creation of Pakistan, my country.
Yeah.
Uh, as I told you that Pakistan is a country just next to India, bordered with India, Iran, and Afghanistan, and then China. So basically, we were part of British colonization um, between 1857 and 1947. 1857 to 1947.
Okay.
So, and after that, after 1947, Pakistan and India were created by British Empire.
Oh. That's
So
all.
when so we were part of Indians and Pakistani were part of British colonization, and before that, Muslims were ruling for more than 1,000 years in India, in United India, and then British came there and they started making their own influence. So you can say after that we were the suppression of even suppression of British colonization. So, anyways, English were part of the Indian culture at that time because whenever in any country goes to any other state or any other country, so they start a proper influence over there. Either it's a proper educational influence or economic influence or political influence.
Okay.
So you can say English started in Pakistan before the independence, before the creation of Pakistan. And when Pakistan created, and you can say we continued or we proceed with the British thinking and British colonization.
Okay, for the next question, question number two. How was English first introduced to your country and it was what influenced its spread?
I think I had answered this to you. So it was all about, you can say it was, you can say, firstly introduced in before the creation of Pakistan, when India and Pakistan were the part of the same continent, Barr Saghir, what we call in Urdu. So after that, when Pakistan and India divided, and we continued with the English language.
Question number three. Uh, wait. Learning English pronunciation can be tricky. How difficult was it for you? You know?
Okay, let me answer to that. As English is a different language from our own language, our native language, my native language is Urdu.
Yes.
Our native language is, when I talk about my own village, it's called Kohistani dialect we speak there. So there are four provinces in Pakistan. Every province, each province has its own history and its own way of speaking their own native language. So uh, we have a problem in, you can say we people are very hard. The way we speak is it's hard. But in other province of Pakistan, like we can take example of Sindh and Punjab. Okay, I think you have heard about Lahore. So they people have soft way of learning anything. The way they speak is very soft. So particularly for us, it was very difficult to learn English pronunciation. Uh, it was very difficult, but we have tried. As I told you that uh, in developed cities of Pakistan, they speak English. So I left my own village and then came to Islamabad, its capital of Pakistan. It's very well developed, and I started learning here with my teachers and with my fellows. They were from Islamabad, the developed people in Pakistan. So I just started conversation with them and talking and speaking, and after that, I took control over my pronunciation skills.
Were there any English sound that were hard for you to pronounce? Can you give me like example for you
Yeah,
to pronounce?
that answer. So as I have already mentioned that I was from a village area, and we have our own dialect we speak there. So every people when he or she is learning a second language, so firstly they compare the second language with his or her own language, first language. So when I started learning English, so I was just confusing my own native language with the English language. So anyways, let me try to answer. There is a proper word that in English, that, that, that.
Oh,
So
that.
when you take the first two letters, I mean T and H, and when we if I compare this with my own language, so we just say that the, the in my own native language. So it will be difficult for me to speak like that and that, like, and I started working on that, and finally I learned to speak that instead of that.
Did your accent change when you learn English?
Mostly in my country, people have their own way of speaking. There are only 2 to 5% people who are, you can say, just speak like Native Americans or Britons or many other country peoples who speak English. So there were many, only 2 to 5% people who speak like the Native Americans or Britons. Mostly 90 to 95% people of Pakistan, they have their own accent. So particularly when it comes to me, I have, you can say, I have to control over many things. So my accent is just shifting towards, you can say, proficiency, towards a good way.
Oh, okay, okay. So, how do you practice and improve your English?
As I have told you that when British came into India, and then they started building their own educational institutions. So there are many institutions in Pakistan where English is a medium for learning. As
Mm.
I have already mentioned, I think I've mentioned. So I was from a village area, and there is our education system there is in our native language.
Mm.
So and I left my village and came to Islamabad. There is a proper institutions in Islamabad, and I started working in that institution, and which improved my English. And you can also take example of Hello Talk, where I talk with people, and there are many online platforms. So I learned my English from there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Next question. Are there any English word you still find tricky to pronounce?
Yeah, you can say there is a word Tsunami. It is called tsunami.
Tsunami.
Tsunami. So it will be difficult for me to pronounce because T and S, it's T is silent here. So it will
Oh,
be difficult for me. And we can take example of psychology sometimes because T S, and that's why speaking psychology, I had problem in the beginning, but nowadays I have taken over
oh,
there.
okay, okay. So, for the last question, do you think English will keep growing or will people will start using local language instead?
Um, Let me answer to that. Firstly, as I have once again I'm mentioning here, I have mentioned in the start that there was a two shift when Pakistan was created. First shift was first people, many people, there were many intellectual people, they were telling, demanding for Urdu to be national and official language, and the other was demanding for English to be official language. But after that we took English as official language and Urdu is as a national language. uh, so there are many institutions in Pakistan, many intellectuals in Pakistan who are working uh, to grow Urdu as their official and national both language. So there are many, you can say, many festivals and many other cultural events where this just talk about uh, taking Urdu as their official and national. But I think it's very difficult to dominant to take dominancy over English. It will be very difficult because you know that English people are very modern, and they have a proper political system and then economic system, and there's a proper socio-economic system. There are, you can say, many people in the world who are speaking English, and you can also take example of China and Arabic sometimes. So I don't think we have the proper influence over the world. So I just think that English will take its dominancy over local languages, and English will keep growing day by day.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing your thought and experience with me. And that's all from me.
Hi, my name is Atira, and thank you for joining me today. So, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you. Adira, right? Okay, my
Yeah.
name is Amel. Hi, I'm from Indonesia. Basically in Lombok. I am 22 years old right now. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. To start, we start with our question number one. How has
Mhm.
the English language evolved in your country over time?
The English language has undergone significant development in Indonesia over time. Initially, English was introduced during the colonial era, but its use was limited to the elite. After the independence, English became a compulsory subject in schools, and its importance grew as Indonesian opened up to the global economy. Today, English is widely used in education, business, tourism, and international communication.
Oh, I see. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Sorry. So, for the
Okay.
second
Okay.
question, how was English first introduced to your country, and what influenced its spread?
So introduce and spread of English, right? English was first introduced to Indonesian by British traders and colonizers in the 17th century. However, it was the Dutch colonial government that formally introduced English as a subject in school in the early 20th century. After Indonesian gained independence in 1945, the government continued to promote English as a foreign language to facilitate international communication and economic development.
Okay, I see. So for the next question, speaking of learning English, how difficult was it to learn English pronunciation?
So I found it challenging to learn English pronunciation, especially the sound that don't exist in Indonesian language, such as T or T and H, right, and V. It took a lot of practice and listening to native speaker to improve my pronunciation.
Okay, so from your opinion, were there any English sounds that were hard for you to pronounce?
The t sound, like right?
Oh,
Yeah,
the
was
TH sound.
particularly difficult. Yeah, particularly difficult for me to pronounce as it doesn't exist in Indonesia, and I also struggle with the V sound because which is often replaced with P or B. Like it's the similar, right? And so in P or B in Indonesian pronunciation.
Okay, so for your point of view, did your accent change when you learn English?
As I learn English, my accent did change, but I still retain some Indonesian characteristic. I've noticed that my pronunciation have become more natural, but I still have a distant Indonesian accent.
Okay, I understand. So, how did you practice to improve your English communication skills?
I practice and improve my English communication skill by reading books and articles, watching English movies and TV shows, Netflix, listening to podcasts, and speaking with native speakers like on the social media, on the like website, and sometimes I also try to use English in my daily life, such as with communicating with the challengers or friends who talk or speak English.
Okay, so are there any words that you find hard for you to pronounce?
I still find someone who is tricky with pronounced words as uh, works tire. Yeah, yeah, huh? Yeah, it's very difficult. It's so hard, and I have to practice this word regularly to get the pronunciation right.
Okay, I see. So, for our last questions, do you think
Mhm.
English will continue to grow, or will people start using their local language more instead?
Future of English in Indonesia. I think English will continue to grow in importance in Indonesia, especially in the field of business, education, and international communication like us, right? While Indonesia will remain the national language, English will become unnecessarily important as a tool for global communication and economic development.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's all from me. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and it was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah.
Aiko. So before we get started, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Idris. From Kenya. I am studying in Malaysia in UTP University, electrical and electronic engineering.
Okay, so in my interview today, I will be asking 8 questions about your experience in your English and your pronunciation. So let's get started. So for the first question is, how difficult was it for you to learn English pronunciation?
English pronunciation wasn't difficult for me since we've been taught English in an earlier age back in my country, from kindergarten to primary to high school. So I catch up pretty well at that time. It wasn't that hard.
Oh, that's great. You were exposed to English very early from your age lah.
Yeah.
Okay, for the second questions, were there any English sounds that were hard for you to pronounce, and is there an example?
Yeah, there's pretty much some words I can't pronounce. I don't know why, because of my language culture background or something, but mostly I would say the words in biology. Some terms are pretty hard to pronounce. Um, for example, okay, well, in the term FBI, there's federal, then the one in the middle,
Oh,
bureau something. Yeah, you can
federal.
check it out. FBI,
Okay,
bureau
okay,
something.
okay. I get that. Those some people get some people have trouble pronouncing some words. For the third question is, did your accent change when you learned English?
Yeah, my accent changed. It depends with the high school I went, because back in primary, I didn't used to speak English that much. But in high school, I got a accent change since I studied with multiple people like from diverse cultures. I got to know their accents, so my accent changed as well.
That's interesting. It's amazing how your accent can change over time just from speaking more and listening to others. Next question. Okay. How do you practice and improve your English communication?
Practicing English is based on, or any other language. You watch videos, documentaries, you actually engage in speaking with other people, and you just make it a habit in your day-to-day life. That's helping in uh, practicing English.
Okay, that's a good way to go about it. Practicing consistently really does make a huge difference. Are there any words in English you still find tricky to pronounce? Can you give an example?
Um, uh, this is the same as the other question, right? Tricky to
Yeah, correct.
pronounce. Uh, words like mm, okay. The first one I mentioned, the beauty something. We have words with the Q's inside and X's.
Aha.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the other part is, since my language is we pronounce the word as it is. So when it comes to English, I tend to pronounce as it is. Let's say I've heard the word for the first time. That's when my pronunciation goes wrong.
Yeah, I totally get that. Some words just don't make sense. Um, do you think English will continue to grow in your country, or will people prefer using the local language?
English is on the rise in my country. Average people, when they speak in our language, they add English sentences. So I would
Mm,
say maybe it might lead to extent of our language in some way. But yeah, English is widely spoken in my language, in my
uh,
country. So
okay. How has the English language evolved in your country over time?
English language has evolved in quite an alarming rate since the colonization, the British colonization, and after they built schools and they came and integrated with the people there. So it has helped in like everyone uses English in their daily lives. If you go to the supermarket, if you use your phone, if maybe there's a data service, so it's it's just there. You can't escape it.
Okay, that's great. English has really become a big part of daily life. For the last questions, how was English first introduced to your country, and what influenced its spread?
So you know that Kenya is one of the Commonwealth countries which was colonized by British. So back in 90s and 80s, when they came to do their thing, they built schools. It was just like
Uh,
minority schools, but then afterwards, when they interacted with the people, so they expand their their schools, and they made like Kenyans go and study there. So some were taken abroad. So by this, they built schools. Then after colonization, they put the system in the Kenyan government. That's when English was introduced in every and primary, high school, university. Yeah. So basically, that's how we got to learn English.
That's almost also the same as our country in Malaysia. Okay, that is really cool to hear. History definitely play a huge role in how language spreads. Thank you for sharing all of that. It was awesome to hear your perspective, and I really appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Can you introduce yourself?
All right. So my name is Russell. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I'm currently doing my PhD studies in University of Technology, Petronas.
Next question. How has the English language evolved in your country over time?
I suppose the use of English in my country has evolved over time. It has improved. Our literacy rate in terms of English is one of the highest in Africa at the moment. So I think it has gone on to improve and increase over time.
Okay, question. How was English first introduced to your country and what influence it is spread?
Okay, so English was first introduced because we were colonized by the British. So that's how that's how English came to become used widely in my country. And then, sorry, the second question was how does it improve? Is it? What was your second?
How has the English language evolved in your country over time?
Okay, so with time, because it was introduced during by the colonizers, so it gradually increased in usage. So many parts of Zimbabwe that you travel to today, English is widely spoken and continues to be spoken. Yes.
Right. Sure.
How difficult was it to learn English pronunciation?
Learning English pronunciation was not so difficult at first for me because we sort of start learning English from a young age in our school system. So with time, it's of course initially it was difficult, but later on it became easy. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Were there any English sound that were hard for you to pronounce?
Hmm. Yeah, there are a couple of words that are difficult to pronounce. I can't remember offhand exactly which ones, but I remember sometimes you can't uh, hear whether like weather. Okay, there is weather meaning the weather outside, and then there is
Oh,
weather meaning weather,
oh,
whether
I
this or that.
see.
Yeah.
I gave you like a sentence. Can you read it for me?
Okay, sure. Let me open it. Okay, so in Zimbabwe, access to healthcare can be more challenging in rural areas compared to urban centers. And farmers in Zimbabwe rely on seasonal rains to grow crops in rural communities. Yeah.
Did your accent change when you learn English?
You mean the accent for my mother language, is it?
Yes.
Um, Yeah, to some extent it did, but not very much. But yeah, to some extent it actually changed a little bit because when you speak English, sometimes there are certain pronunciations which you have to do to speak it correctly. So yeah, it did change somehow, but not so much. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, next question. How do you practice and improve your English communication?
Hmm. Okay, so for me, I read a lot of books. I like reading, and I also like to watch the news. Okay, so and documentaries. So from watching television to reading books, yeah, that's how I you know can improve myself. Yeah.
Oh, well. Next is, are there any words in English you still find tricky to pronounce?
Yeah, I guess there are still some words that are tricky to pronounce. Uh, like the one I gave you earlier. We have weather for the outside weather and weather for but telling the difference between the two sometimes makes it difficult. Yeah.
Oh, okay. For the last question, do you think English will keep growing, or will people in your country will use only local language instead?
Hmm. That's an interesting one because for me personally, I think English should keep growing because we need a language to be able to communicate with each other. Because even in my home country, we have different languages between the different groups of people. So we need a common language.
Mm.
So I think it should keep growing. But whether it will keep growing or not, I think that also depends on the people, the policy makers, what are they thinking in their heads. But for me personally, I think it's a wonderful language and it's growing.
Oh, that's a great perspective. I think that's all from me. Thank you for sharing your experience with me today. Okay, thank you.